Hello everyone, this is Katura with the Players Council, and today I just wanted to give a brief run through of the advanced card search that's been recently added to the wiki, so that all the various features and how to use the utility can be recorded here on YouTube for anyone to reference. For anybody that has been in the community for a while, you're probably familiar with the fact that the filtering options within the GEMP deck builder are not fantastic. There's no way to search within the game text itself. There's very limited ability to search for keywords or anything of that nature. And so finding a particular card, if you don't know some portion of its title or what culture it's in or whatever, you're pretty much out of luck. Before now, if you wanted to be able to really find anything, you had to go download this very old utility called Zorbek's deck builder. And this had filters that allowed you to search the game text, a lot of very advanced silos of different sorts of attributes that you might want to search between. But nowadays I think we have finally developed a utility that lets us rival what Zorbex is capable of. And so here we have a very quick example of a query that has searched for every card that is in one of the first three sets that has a race of orc, that has a twilight cost less than or equal to 3 and a strength of greater than or equal to 7, and that gives us this list up here. And this has all the same features that we have come to love within the wiki, like the hover over to see the preview of the card, and then the ability to just click through and actually look at the article and all the other information that is stored here. So just to show you what exactly you need to do, first navigate to the home page of the wiki itself. We'll make sure that this link is in the description. And then if you come over here, it'll be on the left if you're on desktop. It might be on the top if you're on mobile. Or if you're on a resolution that is somewhat smaller or wider than this, there'll be a section for gameplay help, and then under that section there's the advanced card search. So click on that, and that will bring you to a fresh query window here. There's a lot of things here. Most of them I think are not going to be relevant in the vast majority of queries, but they are there, and I'll just go through everything here one at a time to show what different things it has available. So first of all, if we just hit run query without doing anything else, this will just pull a list of every single card in the game. So it'll show all the rings here, and then it will sort all the cards by side. So it will show all Free People's cards first, and then all Shadow cards afterwards, and then sites at the end. And then all of them are sorted within their side by culture. So here we see just a gigantic list of Dwarven cards, and within the Dwarven culture itself, they are sorted by collector's info. So it starts here in set 1 and just slowly works its way through. However, you can also see here that there's this little more link, and if I click on this and take a look at it, we can see that this is actually the full version of the entire query results. What you're going to get here in this window is the first 100, because most of the time if you are trying to search for something, you are only going to have a handful of candidates to be comparing between. But if you do end up with a query that produces an awful lot of results, you can come in here to this particular window to really drill down. So here I've changed this to show 500 results at a time, and you can just come through here and click on the next 500 or whatever. This is going to have, like I said, the full 3,500 results. So it's just going to keep allowing us to page through and check all those cards out as needed. Each of these little boxes here tends to group up a different sort of focus depending on what that particular set of attributes is. So over here in the card info card, we have various things that are going to relate to the identification of a particular card. So we have whether or not the card is unique. We have the title and subtitle searching. We can filter down by which side we are doing. So if we want to say that we only want Shadow cards, we can do it this way. If we want only Free People's cards, then we can have Free People's. Or we could say that we want neither. We only want to search through rings and sites. That's something that you can do. You can also mix and match these. Although if you end up putting both Shadow and Free People's, then it's kind of like, well, why are you filtering at all? There's also a creator section because we have Decipher cards on here, we have Players Council cards, and we also have the Hobbit Draft card game by Enola. All of those are listed here. By default, it shows all Decipher and Players Council cards, but if you also want to search the Hobbit cards, you can add that. Or if you decide that you want just Decipher cards, you can remove the Players Council one that is added automatically there. And then if you want to search by set, there are all the sets listed here for you to filter by. You can click through and add as many as you want, and all of your results will be filtered accordingly. You've also got rarity searching, so this will have both the printed rarities and also rarities for various things like the Worlds Apart digital cards and so forth that were never actually printed, but and the April Fool's Day and things like that. Every single rarity that we have a record of is in here. It is just not always reasonable to filter that way. And if you're not doing like a poor man's sort of event, that usually isn't a very helpful filter anyway. On to the next one. We have game text here. So if I wanted to search for every card in the game that had the word orc in it, I could just do that real quick. Oh, I'm sorry. I still have this set to Age's End, which only found me the 2 cards there. Okay, so that's a much better result. So if we were to look on all of these, each of them should have the word orc, and that one does not have the word orc. Have I been made a liar? When you play Brico, you may oh, nope, there it is. Reinforce. So this actually kind of highlights why searching in game text is not always as reliable as one might hope. The word reinforce there, R-E-I-N-F-O-R-C-E, includes the word orc. And so we unfortunately found something that it was not as helpful as we were hoping. It is not case sensitive, so even if I were to capitalize that O, it would make no difference in the results. If you are trying to use wildcards, you could, for instance, say something like, let's see, we could say wound and then put a percentage sign and then say orc, so it'll be something that has to do with wounding orcs. Yeah, so here we go. Each time Gimli wins a skirmish, you may wound an orc, so it successfully wildcarded out the bits in between wound and orc. You may wound 2 orcs, so wound 1 orc twice, so all of those got wildcarded out. That is, I think, the bread and butter of searching for what you might want to locate. If you have more advanced understandings of things like regex, you can come in here and there are some text boxes that you can instead enter to utilize regex search, which is much more powerful, but I don't expect most people to necessarily be aware of that. You can probably just search for what you're doing here or using one of the other cards here as we get there. And then we have different attributes on the cards. So if I want to search just in Dunland, I can change that culture to Dunland and it will only give me Dunland cards. Just making sure I don't have any other filters on there. I can also combine, so I can come in here and I can say multiple different ones. So if I want to find all Dunland and Isengard cards, then that allows me to filter that way. And we see here that we've got a mix of both up here on the screen. And then you just click the little X to remove any of them that you don't want. There is also card type filtering, which is, again, same sort of deal. So if I want to find all items, which is all possessions and artifacts, that's once again just a very simple, straightforward thing to do. And as you may have been noticing, each of these individual boxes performs what's called a logical OR search. So it's basically saying, I want you to find an artifact, everything that is an artifact or a possession or a minion, right? However, in between different text boxes, it follows what's called an AND logical search. So I want everything that is a dwarven card and a condition. And so if I do that, we are only going to get dwarven cards and conditions. So it's OR within a particular text box, and it's AND when you're between different types of text boxes. But anyway, so we also have a section here for race. This is auto-populated with all of the races that are in the game. Item class, which is what you might find on possessions. You have cloak, gauntlets, hand weapons. If I want a list of all hand weapons that are in the game, that's very simple now to find. If you are talking about events and you're trying to find events that are in a particular phase, if you only want shadow phase things, for instance, then this will pull up all of our events that are shadow events. Let's see, just real briefly here, that's all that produces. And then there's some additional filters here that are more concerned with what is on the card within the game text. So for instance, has a phase action. If I want to find everybody that has a maneuver phase action, whether it's a condition, a minion, whatever, If we take a look at all of these, each and every one of these cards is going to have in bold the word, maneuver, and some sort of maneuver action that's available. There's also keyword filtering here, which is very similar to what was in GEMP. I can say that, all right, I want to find everything that has a keyword of Warg Rider. And this is smarter than just typing in the word Warg Rider in here. This is only going to give you cards that actually have the Warg Rider keyword, even though there are cards that say things like Bearer must be a Warg Rider or wound a Warg Rider or something like that. This is not going to get tripped up by that. Whereas, in fact, let's just demonstrate that. So I'm going to put Warg Rider here in the text search, and we should get more. Yep, there's a few more now. We've now got Sharker's Warg, Bearer must be a Warg Rider, and I think that might be it, just the Wargs tagging themselves as needing a Warg Rider. Now, if you want to drill down and get a little bit more advanced, there's this Show More here, which will open up about twice as many text boxes for each of the individual subtypes here. So instead of just saying that you want cards that are Dwarven cards, you can go in and say, I want something that references the Dwarven culture. So if I hit that, then this is going to give me every card that somewhere on the card it will actually reference that little Dwarven symbol, right? So here we've got an Elven card that references the Dwarven culture. Here we have a Moria card that references the Dwarven culture. And that is one of the downsides of this particular tool, is that every time you hit run query, you're going to have to open up anything that you have hidden with that show more, show less. But anyway, this allows you to really drill down into whatever you might be trying to find. So it uses a card type. I don't necessarily want possessions, but maybe I want cards that target possessions. So let's run that real quick and see what we get. Eowyn, play a Rohan possession on Eowyn to healer. Elven Warrior, while this companion is bearing a possession, he's strength +2. So these are all cards that reference possessions without necessarily themselves being possessions. And then, so what else do we got? We have references to races without necessarily being that race, referencing an item class. So for instance, if I were to come over and say Helm, there are a few cards that discard helms specifically. Oops. So once again, another situation, overwhelmed. We'll have to go in and fix that real quick. I was specifically thinking of things like the Whip of Many Thongs. Exert the Balrog to discard a helm, shield, or armor possession. So it's working there. I'll need to go and make sure that is fixed for overwhelmed specifically. Let's see, and then uses a particular keyword, which again is going to be different from having the keyword. So this uses keyword Archer. We can go search for that real quick, and all of these cards should reference archers without necessarily being archers. So Haldir, while the Fellowship is at a forest site, Haldir is an archer. Okay, so he's not an archer by default, but he has an ability that interacts with archers. Their arrows and rage. Each archer companion and archer ally is strength -1. So again, it references archers without necessarily being one. And so this can be a very powerful set of tools for trying to narrow down specifically what it is that you want to find for your particular deck. And it can also be a good way of discovering what exactly exists in the game. So anyway, moving on from that card, we have the stats card, which, as the name implies, just allows you to filter down by the various stats. So by default, you just have your Twilight Cost, Strength, Vitality, Resistance, Sight Number, and Signet. You can just come in here and say, I want everybody that has, well, let's go higher than that. I want everybody that has 5 Vitality. And this is going to give you every character in the game that has 5 Vitality. But if you want more advanced than that, there are greater than and less than sections that you can go and filter between. So for instance, let's say that I wanted to find everybody that has 5 or more. We should now also start to see, okay, there's that darn mountain troll, and we have Shelob start to show up with 8 Vitality. Sauron with, Sauron was already on the list at 5. And so you can use this to really finely tune what precisely it is that you're looking for. Also, if you are looking for strength or vitality modifying cards, all you have to do is utilize a plus or a minus in front of what you're looking for. So if we want every card in the game that gives us 1 or more vitality, we can do that. Just put +1 in there, and then every single one of these cards is something that attaches to another and grants that +1 vitality there that you can see. Some of them are bigger than others. We got +3, +2. So let's go ahead and filter out these +1s. Let's just say everything that is +2 or higher. And now we have everything that gives +2, +2. There's +3, a +2. Was there not any higher than that? Well, +3 is still pretty massive, but still. And so we can also see that it will go the other direction as well. If I want everything that is -2 or more strength, I can run query, and -2 might actually be the most. Oh no, there we go. City wall has a -3, so the math still works out. But just to demonstrate, if I were to put 3 there instead of -3, we are getting now all these characters that are 3 strength themselves, which is a different thing from actually modifying the strength by +3, which would just be various attachments. Okay, on from there, there are additional stats related to sites. You can filter down by block if you're trying to find sites for a particular block. You can filter the site number, the shadow number. You can filter out particular sanctuaries. If you are really neurotic, you can filter by the arrow direction. But for the most part, those are just the same as the regular stats. And then if you are a collector and there are particular things that you were looking for, you should be able to use this collector's info section, which will allow you to not only distinguish between cards that actually existed, so which is to say physical cards versus non-physical cards, and playable cards, which is, we're talking about things like the color test cards and things like that. Like those are things that physically existed, but you can't actually play with them, right? And then also, if you are trying to find out one of the things you may have noticed, let's see if we can find what is a card that's been added. Oh, Galadriel's Mirror. Let's take it. In fact, let me just demonstrate this. So if I come over here to clear form, that will get rid of all of the any of the finicky changes that I may have done. It basically just refreshes the page. And then I'll search for the Mirror of Galadriel. Up here you can see that this actually includes all the different versions of Mirror of Galadriel, which have been quite a few. You've got the original print, you have the 2 different prints, the A and B version that Decipher produced, and then you have the Players Council version. So if you are perhaps only doing collecting, maybe you don't care necessarily about the different versions, or perhaps you only care about the errata versions if you are specifically trying to find things that are relevant to the format that you happen to be in. There's also a language filter, and then you can also search in the lore. So if you have a reason, for some reason, to want to find every card in the game that has splendor in its lore, you can do that. These are not holes. This is the great realm and city of the Dwarven Elf, full of light and splendor. There it is. And then we have the advanced search. So the advanced search attempts to recreate a lot of the things that were in Zorbax. Not everything, because a lot of them are either, well, mostly useless, or they are reproduced elsewhere here in the program. But if you go down through here, you'll see that there are going to be different sorts of breakdowns between different things that you might want to find. So if you were to just search for the word burden, you're going to find an awful lot of things that are that cover a lot of different things, a lot of different use cases. So here's the Shire countryside that's going to pull off burdens. You have all the different versions of the One Ring that are going to be adding burdens. You're going to find Nazgul that add burdens. You're going to have things like the Golem that gets stronger based on how many burdens there are. These are all different use cases, and they're not all necessarily useful for what it is you're trying to do. So here we can say we're just going to filter it down to just cards that add burdens. And we've already gone in and done the work to figure out what exactly the specific wording needs to be done to just find cards that add burdens. So here's Shadowfax. Each time Gandalf is about to take a wound, you may add a burden to prevent that. That might not be terribly useful if you are, running a shadow side trying to corrupt someone, but over here on the shadows we can take a look and see that all of these will add burdens. Each time this minion wins a skirmish, add a burden. Okay, that one's complicated. Discard Golem and remove a threat to add a burden. So this, just very quickly narrows down what you might specifically be trying to do. So each of these has more or less stuff within them, depending on what it is that you might be trying to do. So I would encourage you to take a look and go poke around and find out what's in here. So there's that signet section. If I wanted every single card that references the Gandalf signet, I can search here, and this is all of them. There's not very many, but That's it. A lot more Gandalf signets than there are cards that reference Gandalf signet. And so just like the other sections that were up here, all of these advanced search little checkboxes are all ors. So basically I can come up here and I can say I want every card that reveals stuff from my opponent's hand, every card that increases the move, or a card that increases the move limit, or a card that prevents threat removal. And if I were to do that, I'm going to find this wonderful mix of things I'd look for, things that increase the move limit, things that reveal hands, and things that prevent threats from being removed. So you do have to be a little careful when you're using it like that, that this is not going to allow you to narrow down to the super amazing card that you're looking for that only does those 3 things. But it should help you narrow down what you're looking for in general. And as always, you can combine these. So if you were really trying to find cards that add burdens, but you thought that this list was too big, well, you can narrow it down and say, all right, I want to find only Ring Wraith cards that are going to be adding burdens. And that once again, and that immediately goes down to a much more manageable thing. Okay, well, actually, I only want events, Ring Wraith events that add burdens, and boom, you know, that again narrows it down much further, depending on what it is that I might need for my deck. So, I hope that this has been useful. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask us down in the comments or on the Players Council Discord. And if you have any suggestions for features that may be added, if there's a particular kind of advanced search section here that you would like to see as a built-in feature, then please let us know and we'll take a look at it. It doesn't take all that much work to add any one of these individual lines. It just has to be something that we think is useful. So if you have a good idea, let us know. And if you wanted any bugs, let us know. Other than that, enjoy, and I hope you guys will use this to make your decks that much better. Thanks.